So this is the Chemex technique. This is very popular and very easy to do. And if you get it right, it makes a fantastic cup of coffee. It really does. So to begin with, we have to weigh out our coffee. So Henry, how much coffee do we need?
For this one, we're going to use 24 grams. So I'm going to take 24 grams of beans here, weigh it out, grind it, and then I'm going to put it into the Chemex for the brew. So for this, we don't need 3 of these. So we don't need the espresso or the mocha pot. We're going to be using this one, which is for the Chemex, and the other one, which is for the cafetiere, we don't need. So just to remind ourselves, it's not quite as gritty. It's not flour, it's not sand, it's just a little bit grittier than sand. So in between really coarse grind and sand, if that makes sense.
And
so
24 grams is per cup. So if we were going to do 2, 3 or 4 cups, we'd just multiply that.
Yeah.
Super.
So first of all, turn on the scales. Kitchen scales are fine. I'm using a brand called Harrier, which is a good one to use. So the first thing we do is tare it, so it's really reading at 0.0, taking into consideration the weight of the cup. So that's there. Then take our spoon.
Henry is very proud of this spoon.
Really proud of the spoon. I made the spoon.
You don't have to use a homemade spoon. Did I say 24 grams before?
Oh yeah, you did. Thanks.
It's very important to get your measurements right. So the 24 grams was the key starting point, isn't it?
Yep. Less than that, we're not going to get full-bodied coffee. More than that, again, it's going to affect the taste. So now we have our beans weighed out. We're going to pop it into the grinder. Making sure that nothing else is in there. Checking the chamber. It's empty, it's clean, good. Put the beans in. Now we've set it at the appropriate grind, which is fairly coarse, but not as coarse as cafetiere. So next thing, turn it on. So we've got the amount of coffee there. Give that a smell rich. It's good, isn't it?
It's one of the best things in the world, smelling fresh coffee.
Okay, so we've got it there. I'm just going to pop it back into the glass. And make sure you catch every last grain. No one gets left behind. So pop that back in there. Now we're on to the Chemex itself. You'll see it's got a spout here. And now that's going to come in use to us very shortly. And it's got this lovely wooden collar here because glass is obviously going to get quite hot, so that protects us. We're going to take a filter paper. Now this is, you see, like that. This is, once we turn it into a funnel, you'll see that one side is one paper and the other has the other 3 sides. So what we're going to do is wet this paper so we lose any of that starchy flavour that's going to affect the taste of the coffee.
Now I'm going to get the water. Sorry, you've got the water. Where did you get that from? And this is actually boiled to about 98 degrees, that water. So it's not boiling, because boiling water isn't what you should have, is it?
No, it's going to affect the flavour of the coffee. So for tea's brewed at different temperatures, be it green, white, Assam. So anything from 80 to 90 to 100 degrees. So for coffee, we're conscious that we don't want to burn the coffee. So the first thing we're going to do is, see the spout is here, the 3 side papers are there. We're now going to pour some water in a circle, making sure we've got all the paper is now that's now been wet. And at the same time the water's coming down, it's going to heat the main body of the vase itself.
So we've wet our filter paper, we've got our water, we've got our coffee ground and ready to go.
Okay, we poured off the excess so the actual Chemex is nice and warm, ready to go. We've got our 24 grams of ground coffee and it's the right coarseness. We now have 384 grams of water, not at boiling. We're now going to put the Chemex onto the scales. We're looking for a yield of 336 grams at the end. So if we tear it so it's measuring at no grams at all, we then put our 24 grams in. This next bit is really important. We're going to bloom it, which is basically wetting the coffee, exposing it to the water, and that starts the brew process, allowing every grain of coffee to be saturated in water. And then as soon as that starts dripping, we can then add the rest of the water slowly at an ever decreasing circle, starting in the middle and working our way out towards the edge of the Chemex. So the first thing I'm going to do is wet the coffee. Let's try and do that as quickly as possible. And then this is called blooming. So you can see some of the coffee is already starting to come through. We've exposed all of the coffee to water. We can now begin the brew process. We don't pour everything in, and this kettle is devised so it allows us to pour a limited amount and control the pour itself. So
and all these bubbles we're seeing coming off, that's the gas escaping, isn't it?
Indeed. We can also encourage the brew as well with a paddle. Not everyone does this, but it's also just ensuring that there's no coffee that's stuck together. Let's just gentle stir, and we can continue to pour. Now the scales are telling me it's about 200 grams, so we're almost there.
And once the coffee starts coming down, because we've got the grind right, this is sort of the right drip speed, yeah?
Yeah, you can see it's coming through fast enough to ensure the brew. Now we're looking for 3.5 minutes to 5 minutes for the whole process, the whole brew itself. Ideally, I'm looking for about 3.5. And on the other side of the scales, we have a timer. You can use your phone. If your scales do have that device, you can press the button, allowing you to measure the time it's taking to brew the coffee. You'll see you've got this nice color coming through. So it's finished its brew. It's in the allotted time. The coffee's exposed. We've got the waste coffee in here. So now we're just going to get rid of that. That's good to serve.
Voila.
Now, what we would do before we serve is the cups themselves. We'd heat them. So this has had some hot water in it already. Just going to pour that off. That's nice and warm. So it doesn't have to be china, it could be glass, but either way, you want to put some hot water in for the vessel to be warmed through. It's going to make the coffee taste nicer. Okay, Rich, over to you. You do the honours.
And this is a common form of coffee you'll see in a specialty coffee house, won't you? But it's so easy to do at home. Once you get used to it, it's really, really easy, isn't it?
Yeah. It's different to, say, the traditional Americano, which you get through the espresso machine. The Americano is a bitter, quite full-on flavour. This is a lot more subtle. So Rich is slurping there, and what he's doing is bringing in oxygen here to add more flavour, bring more flavour, expose air to his tongue. So we have on the tongue sweet, sour either side, and bitter at the end there. Also, your left and right of your tongue will pick up a little bit of saltiness too. So what we're looking for is a full-bodied, rounded taste and flavour, which is encompassing all of those. Bit of sweet, bit of bitterness, bit of sourness. So, how's it taste?
It's lovely. It's got a really lovely, like long caramelly finish in it.
Has it? Great.
Now, as Henry said, the way I'm tasting the coffee is so that I'm exposing my mouth with a lot of oxygen. Feel comfortable to adapt your own way of tasting coffee. We wouldn't recommend doing it like this in a coffee house unless you're going
to get some strange looks, aren't you?
Particularly from the barista, who might feel a little bit intimidated.
Yeah, but it's just like for those people that appreciate a good glass of wine.
Yeah,
you bring in the oxygen, you bring in the air to add more
flavours.
Yeah,
more flavours in. And wine has what, 400 taste points, and coffee has 1,200.
Yeah.
So you gotta taste it all. So, in summary, that is the Chemex. That is how we've made it today and how you can make it at home. So just to recap, 24 grams of coffee.
Yep.
And water-wise, we're looking for 384.
Correct.
So 384 grams of water, all easily done on your kitchen scales. 3.5 minutes to actually brew the coffee itself. And I'd say your main tip for using the Chemex was that when you had the kettle like this, is just making sure you've got the water going in the middle and you've got a nice gradual rotation round.
Yeah, you're not putting all the water in at one time. It's worth it. It's a time. It takes time, but it's worth it. So minimum of 3.5 minutes, maximum 5 minutes. Go over the 5 minutes, which you shouldn't do because the amount of water there, and you're going to get a bitter tasting. It's not going to be as sweet and as flavoursome as it could be. So again, looking at the variables, it's paying attention to the detail.